Hello, my name is Nick. Many of you know that. I'd like to start off by saying thank you for being here and thank you for listening. I appreciate it. What I'd like to talk about today is a case that many of you probably heard of. Many of you have probably seen on your social medias a time or two. But if you haven't, I'm here to let you in on some information. So Gabby Petito. That name might sound familiar, might not. Gabby Petito was a 22-year-old Florida girl. Loved the outdoors, loved adventuring, loved hiking. Loved her fiancé, Brian. Loved her family. Loved America. She was a great woman, beautiful woman. But what happened to Gabby is very confusing. Very confusing and very unnatural, I would say. And she obviously didn't deserve what happened to her. Gabby Petito, unfortunately, her remains were found in the Trenton National Forest in Wyoming. She was reported missing on September 11th, 2001. Prior to that, her and her fiancé, Brian, set out on a cross-country trip visiting all the state parks from Florida to Wyoming. They set out in their family van, a nice white van, not suspicious at all for a couple going across country. But this van, Gabby Petito's name, Brian's name, have been blown into this media catastrophe. These two were a normal couple for a while, loved each other, had great times with each other. Their social medias were filled with each other, if that means anything. But what happened to them is something that I think we need to know about. As I said, Gabby Petito is a 22-year-old Florida native. Her and her husband, Brian, set out on a cross-country trip in their family van. They started in Florida, hit every campground from here to Wyoming. Now, Gabby and Brian are not newbies to the outside. They spent so much time outside, hiking, adventuring. It was how they communicated, how they love each other. The hard facts of this case have been kept under wraps from the media for obvious reasons, to keep the family safe, to keep the publicity and hatred down. But there are some things we do know. I'd like to start off in June. Take you back a little bit. June 2021. Reports say Gabby maintained regular contact with her parents during her adventures. FaceTimes, calls, text messages, all that. Keeping the family in the loop. Her mother loved it. Her mother loved hearing from her about her adventures, loved hearing how her and Brian were doing. But this time was different. Reports say from the chief of police, from a statement he released, normal communications abruptly stopped and came to a screeching halt at the end of August. She was not communicating with her family as much as she used to, and that scared her family, as it would anyone. On August 12th, Utah police reported to a crime of some sort of altercation between the two. Body cam footage of the event shows Gabby clearly hysterical and crying. Seems like she was being abused in some kind. Brian seemed nervous, anxious even. Like he was already in trouble and he was just trying to get out of it. They were just reporting to a crime. Nothing had been labeled. Nothing had happened from the police standpoint. They left together and they remained on their trip. Now the history of domestic violence between the couple is evident from reports from the family, from reports from both families, from friends, from everyone. There was some sort of domestic violence in the couple. But they loved each other, so they kept up. In late August, during their trip, a witness testified seeing Gabby and Brian in a restaurant. Gabby clearly hysterical, crying, nervous, on edge some kind. Brian clearly angry, aggravated, furious, I would say. On the verge of violence, but not quite there yet. Now, the last couple weeks of August are really important to the Petito family. On August 24th, Gabby FaceTimes with her mom leaving Utah. She says, "Mom, everything's alright. We had a little bit of an argument. The police were involved, but I love him. We're going to keep on this and we're going to work through it." On August 25th, multiple texts were shared between Gabby and her mom. "I love you. Be safe. Call me if you need anything." On August 27th, the same thing. Multiple texts, multiple relations between the mom and Gabby. On August 30th, however, her mom receives a text from Gabby. "No service in Yosemite," it reads. Her family doesn't believe this message is from Gabby. They believe that Brian was trying to cover his tracks, texting from her phone. As this happens, authorities in Gabby's family feel something's happened to Gabby. Maybe she's not answering, she's missing. Now on September 1st, Brian returns to his house in Florida alone, without Gabby, in their family van. 5 days later, the Laundrie family is seen at a campground 75 miles away from their home. The family checked into a waterfront campground on September 6th through the 8th. At this point, no one has heard from Gabby for over a month. Her parents are upset completely. If you put yourself in their shoes and you haven't heard from your daughter in over a month after she leaves on a cross-country trip with her fiancé, and her fiancé returns without Gabby, clearly something is awry. At this point, her family is extremely worried, and Laundrie refuses to talk to authorities about anything that happened. In a letter from the Petito family to the Laundrie family, they write, "Please, if you or your family has any decency left, please tell us where Gabby's located. Tell us if we're even looking in the right place. All we want is Gabby to come home. Please help us make this happen." Now, as a man in the world, I understand what love is. I can look back on my past and see, oh, I used to love that girl. And if her family comes to me and asks me, "Have you seen her? Where is she? Please tell us where she is. We have no idea. You were the last person to see her." I would be running the charge. We have to find her. But Brian wasn't like that. Brian disappeared, talking to no one, hiding even. Something is awry. Something is not how it should be. At this point, Laundrie is on the run from multiple authorities. Roughly 50 law enforcement officers from 5 local agencies and the FBI are searching for this man. On September 19th, human remains were found in the Denton County, which is in Wyoming, where they were staying. Forensic find the remains match 100% to Gabby's DNA. We found Gabby. Unfortunately, not the way everyone wanted to. Gabby did not deserve this fate. She did not deserve to be buried in some national forest somewhere with no gravestone. She was better than that. The cause of death was yet to be announced, but strangulation is the word of the mouth right now. Tests show that the remains were in the wilderness for 4 weeks prior to finding her. 4 weeks. On October 20th, during the search for Brian, remains were found in the Florent Carton Reserve, where they were. Some of Laundrie's personal items, including a backpack and a notebook, were found in the area. These items were reported to still be underwater until recently. Dental records showed the remains found on the site were belonging to Laundrie. So what happened? We don't know. The only people that know are Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito. And unfortunately, they're not alive right now to tell us what happened. In conclusion, there's still a lot of questions to be answered. Answers that people don't have. For example, why did Brian Laundrie kill Gabby? Was it a love-induced hatred for her? Was he angry? Was it premeditated? We do not know at the moment. And another one would be, was Laundrie's family involved in the disposal of Gabby's body? And did they know what was going on when he returned home on September 1st? And lastly, who murdered Brian Laundrie? Why would a man who had so much to lose and so much family behind him wind up murdered and buried in a national forest somewhere? These questions do not have answers that we can answer at the moment. On another note, my condolences go out to both Gabby and Brian's family. No one deserves to be murdered and buried in a national forest. Life comes and goes. Love makes you do stupid things, as anyone would know. But on another note, domestic violence is no laughing matter. This is a serious dilemma in the United States as of right now. If you or anyone you know has been involved in any sort of abusive relationship, do not wait to speak out. Be the voice. Be the light that someone can go to in their time of violence and need. Because one day it will be too late, and we will be making another speech about another beautiful man or woman who did not deserve the fate they got. Thank you for listening, and I'm sorry to bum you out today. My name is Nick. Goodbye.